Hey everyone, today I want to give a warning to those who are new to this walk, especially to those who are being told by others that they should become something called a Noahide. Shalom everybody, and welcome to Beit Tefillah Basics. I continue to see so much stuff on social media where people are talking about that they've skipped happily out of their Christian church only to have become misled by some others into becoming something called a Noahide. So that's what I want to talk about today. You know, there's a lot of people seeking to belong to an organization or a religion once they've left the falsehood and lies of the Christian church. And this is only a natural thing because they feel like they're in limbo or something, and if they don't immediately find some kind of group which feels like a church, that they feel left out or whatever. So sometimes this can lead them into a Jewish synagogue because, after all, Christians don't keep the Torah, but the Jews do, so they feel like, hey, let's go to a Jewish synagogue. But when they get to some of these synagogues, they'll find out if they're not Jewish, they might be told by some who are that the Torah isn't for them, which would include keeping the Sabbath or eating biblically clean, as they're told they don't have to adhere to those things as they're only for the Jews. You know, just this past month I was reading online where some people started keeping the Sabbath and they stopped eating pork and other unclean things once they realized that we are to keep the Torah, and they ran into people who convinced them to become a Noahide, saying that the Noahides didn't have to keep those laws. So when they became Noahides, they went right back to eating pork and working on the Sabbath. How sad is that? You know, there's certain things we're never going to find in the Tanakh or the Old Testament. We're never going to find the term Christian or Christianity, but we're also never going to find the term Judaism. It's not in there. You're not going to find the term oral law, nor will you ever read of any such nonsense called the Noahide laws. Because God never gave us anything called Noahide laws. And we'll read proof of that here in just a few minutes. I'm sure many of you remember the story of the nation of Israel splitting in two, where the 10 northern tribes, also known as Ephraim, were scattered worldwide. And the 2 southern tribes, once they were released and came out of their captivity, they returned to the land, and they both formed under the heading of Judah because Judah was larger than Benjamin. So they all became Judah, and that's where we get the term Jew today. God spoke to the prophet Ezekiel about what would happen in the latter days, and we can read about that from Ezekiel 37:15-17. And the word of God came to me, saying, And you, son of man, take a stick for yourself and write on it, for Judah and for the children of Israel, his companions. Then take another stick and write on it, for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel, his companions. Then bring them together for yourself into one stick, and they shall become one in your hand. So this is, of course, talking about the 2 houses, the 2 kingdoms that separated, the 10 northern tribes that still scattered worldwide all around the earth, and the 2 southern tribes of Judah and Benjamin. But let's look at something logically. First of all, we don't know who could be part of those 10 northern tribes. God told Abraham that his descendants would be scattered all over the face of the earth, and so we are. So we don't know who could be part of the northern kingdom and who not. But anyone can take hold of God's covenant by adhering to the terms in the Torah. And so when these 2 sticks finally come together in the end of days, when the 12 tribes are reunited, would God have them doing 2 different things to become one? As in the Jews keeping the full Torah and everyone else keeping only 7 Noahide laws? Of course not. That would be ridiculous. Let me also read this from 2 Kings 17:18-19. So God was very enraged with Israel and removed them from his presence. None was left but the tribe of Judah alone. Judah also did not guard the commands of Yahweh their God, but walked in the statutes of Israel which they made. Now these Noahide laws are a perfect example of laws or statutes that Judah made, which cause others not to guard the commands of God. And please understand that I'm not lumping all Jewish people into this group, just the people who promote Noahide laws and other man-made commandments that either add to or subtract from the Word of God, which is forbidden. I know plenty of Jewish people besides me that do not believe in the Noahide laws. And many of them also realize the entire Torah is not limited to just Jews or those in Orthodox Judaism, but all who wish to be in covenant with God, just as He instructed. But let me go over these so-called Noahide laws. What follows next are 7 laws, also known as mitzvot, which are said to be the Noahide laws, which are supposed to apply to everyone. They are all found in the book of Genesis before there were any Jews. Number 1, prohibition against murder. Number 2, prohibition against idolatry. Number 3, prohibition against blasphemy. Number 4, prohibition of sexual misconduct. Number 5, prohibition against failure to establish courts. Number 6, prohibition against stealing. Number 7, prohibition against eating part of a live animal, such as cutting a limb off of an animal that is alive and eating it. Those are the 7 laws that are supposed to be for non-Jews. I also want to mention many Jewish sources state that Sabbath keeping by a non-Jew is forbidden under the Noahides. Isn't that crazy? So let's use some logic and examine this whole Noahide thing. When God told the children of Israel to make tzitzits, did everyone but the Jews ignore Him because it wasn't one of the Noahide laws? No. What about when God told them, don't eat pork? Did the non-Jews respond with, sorry, if you didn't want us to eat pork, you should have told us way back when? Where does it state in the Tanakh or the Old Testament that on Mount Sinai that God gave the Torah and said, okay, y'all, listen up. Most of this stuff here is just for the Jews, and everyone else is only to follow these other 7 rules that I passed out a long time ago. That's not what happened. But that's exactly what the people that are pushing the Noahide laws want you to think. So who and what are we to obey? Rules of men or rules of God? That should be a no-brainer, I would think. Orthodox Judaism claims that there are 7 laws of Noah for the stranger, which is the Hebrew word ger, and that the Jews are to keep the full Torah. Yet let's listen to what God said here in Deuteronomy 31:12. Gather the people together, men and women and children, and your stranger, which is ger, that is within your gates, that they may hear, that they may learn and fear Yahweh your God, and observe to do all the words of this Torah. So even the stranger is to do all the words of the Torah. So that single verse right there demolishes any kind of Noahide law nonsense. Completely. It's gone. That's about as simple, cut and dried as you can get. So to recap that verse, did God say the strangers were only to do some of the Torah? Just 7 basic laws? Is that what He said? Let's hear that again from Deuteronomy 31:12. Gather the people together, the men, the women, children, and your stranger that is within your gates, that they may hear, that they may learn and fear Yahweh your God, and observe to do all the words of this Torah. Let's also hear these additional verses as well. Exodus 12:49. There is one Torah for the native born and for the stranger, or ger, who sojourns among you. There you go. Numbers 15:29. There is one Torah, both for him who is native among the children of Israel and for the stranger, or ger, who sojourns in their midst. Leviticus 24:22. You are to have one right ruling for the stranger and for the native, for I am Yahweh your God. One right ruling, one Torah for everybody. Plain and simple. So who do you worship? Who do you obey? Anyone teaching these Noahide laws. I don't care how well educated some of these rabbis claim to be. I don't care what they've been through, what kind of yeshiva they attended. Whoever they say they are, if they are teaching the Noahide laws, they are speaking directly against Torah and obviously directly against God. Period. I hear believers of this Noahide baloney claim there are no verses in Torah that specify exactly where it is, but it's hidden deep in the meaning or it's in the underlying current of the Torah, that's where the Noahide laws are. Where have I heard that kind of nonsense before? Oh yeah, in churchianity, where they claim that the New Testament Messiah isn't exactly spoken of in the Torah, but he's found in the underlying current. Yeah, right. I guess both religions like to use that, huh? Let me be clear on this. If you came out of Christianity only to become a Noahide, you're no better off. You are still out of God's covenant. You may not be following a New Testament Messiah anymore, but you're still not in covenant. So you're no better off. Let's hear this in Isaiah 56:6. Also the sons of the stranger, and that particular Hebrew word is the Hebrew nakar, which means alien or foreigner, that join themselves to Yahweh to serve him and to love the name of Yahweh, to be his servants, everyone that keeps the Sabbath from polluting it and takes hold of my covenant. Well, keeping the Sabbath is a sign of this covenant. We can hear that in Exodus 31:13. And you speak to the children of Israel, saying, my Sabbaths you are to guard by all means, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, to know that I, Yahweh, am setting you apart, or making you holy. That's what holy means, is set apart. And this next verse isn't just about Judah. It pertains to all 12 tribes of the children of Israel. Ezekiel 20:20-21. Set apart my Sabbaths, and they shall be a sign between me and you, to know that I am Yahweh your God. But the children rebelled against me. They did not walk in my laws and my right rulings, and did not guard to do them, which if a man does, he shall live by them. They profaned my Sabbaths, so I resolved to pour out my wrath on them, to complete my displeasure against them in the wilderness. So to profane my Sabbath means what? Exodus 31:14. And you shall guard the Sabbath, for it is set apart to you. Everyone who profanes it shall certainly be put to death, for anyone who does work on it, that being shall be cut off from among his people. And the Noahides tell you non-Jews can work on the Sabbath. Wow. Did Exodus 31:14 say, and you shall guard the Sabbath, for it is set apart to you. Every Jew who profanes it shall certainly be put to death, for any Jew who does work on it, that being shall be cut off from among his people. It's not what it said. It said, and you shall guard the Sabbath, for it is set apart to you. Everyone who profanes it shall certainly be put to death, for anyone who does work on it, that being shall be cut off from among his people. So, that's a no-brainer right there, right? But in defending their Noahide nonsense, some people will often cite something called the Oral Torah, which is where this Noahide stuff is found. Let's hear Deuteronomy 4:2. Do not add to the word which I command you, do not take away from it, so as to guard the commands of Yahweh your God, which I am commanding you. We know that God wrote the 2 tablets with his own finger, and he had Moses write the Torah by his own hand. And we just heard that God said we're not to add or subtract from his word. So tell me, how in the world could you do something like that with something that was oral? You couldn't. I don't care when and where people claim it was written down later and by what sages and whatever they said. The fact remains that God had the Torah recorded by himself and Moses at a specific time, then said, don't add or subtract from it. So the New Testament is to the Torah what the Talmud or oral law is to the Torah. It's an addition. It's got to be thrown away. Do people who are Noahides really think they're going to get in trouble from God for actually obeying more of his commands? Is that really what they think? The serpent in the garden got Eve to think that she didn't have to obey God, so she ate off the tree in the midst of the garden, which was sin, right? If you say to people today, well, what if that serpent showed up today and tried to deceive you? They say, well, I wouldn't listen to that serpent. You know, there's a lot of people who say, well, you know, Adam and Eve are going to get a lot of anger at them when people get up to heaven. They're going to say, well, thanks a lot. Look at everything we had to go through because of you two guys. I wouldn't listen to that serpent. Yet, so many people who are following Noahide laws, they're following laws which tell them that they don't have to obey everything that God commanded. So what's the difference? Who do you worship? Who are you going to listen to? The Noahide laws state that non-Jews are not to keep the Sabbath. God said that if you want to be one of his people, you will keep it. So make a choice. Who do you trust? Who do you worship? Whose word do you claim to live by? The word of man or the word of God? That should be an easy decision for anyone. But that's all I have for today. Thanks for watching, everyone, and being a part of Beit Tefillah. Please sub to the channel if you haven't done so yet, and make sure to give the video a thumbs up. We sure appreciate it. Shalom to all who are truly Yisrael and not self-exempted by becoming something called a Noahide, and are scattered worldwide in the dispersion. Everybody be blessed, and have a wonderful day.